A reading by Professor Ciechanover, Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences, to deliver the citation for Professor Ciechanover.
The Chinese expression, one cannot develop his talent without learning, and one cannot accomplish his learning without ambition, well summarizes the key to success of Professor Ciechanover, a 2004 Nobel laureate in chemistry. Born in Haifa, Israel in 1947, Professor Ciechanover is a world-renowned biochemist. When he was a child, he knew he has a strong interest in biology. Thus, he has devoted himself to the basic science research and sees this as his lifelong career. The road for scientific research is rugged. It requires the equipment of knowledge, the accumulation of experience, and also the indomitable spirit when facing failure. At that time, in general, the scientific community did not believe the hope for an in-depth study of protein degradation. Professor Ciechanover had a firm belief and enthusiasm in this research direction. After overcoming countless scientific difficulties in the research, he finally discovered the ubiquitin protease system that regulates protein degradation and the recycling in the cell. His groundbreaking research clearly shows that the ubiquitin-mediated proteolysis plays important roles in numerous biomedical processes, thereby improving the medical treatment and saving countless lives. Ubiquitin exists in many different tissues and organs, and has the function of labeling proteins, which are to be degraded in the protein zone. The ubiquitin protease system not only removes the incorrect proteins, but also plays an important role in cell growth cycle, DNA repair, and chromosome structure. Any aberrations in the ubiquitin protein zone system can contribute to diseases such as cancer and neurodegenerative disorders. Professor Ciechanover has been studying the relationship between occurrence of major human diseases and the metabolic mechanism that regulates proteins in human body. This helps explain the principle of chemical operation of the human immune system and enables us to understand how proteins control chemical phenomena in human body at molecular level. His research has made great contributions to the medical community and promoted the further development of biochemistry. At present, Professor Ciechanover's research has been applied to the development and the production of the world's first drug as a proteasome inhibitor for the treatment of multiple myeloma and mantle cell lymphoma, and has been successfully commercialized, laying the foundation for personalized medicine. In 2004, the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry to Professor Ciechanover, together with Professor Aaron Hershko and Professor Erwin Rose, in the recognition of their unique approach, groundbreaking discovery, and the success research of ubiquitin protease system. Professor Ciechanover remains very active in his research area and is publishing scientific articles with high impact. Now he is a member of the Israeli National Academy of Sciences and Humanity the American Academy of Arts and Sciences Foreign Fellow, the American Philosophical Society, the National Academy of Sciences, and the National Academy of Medicine of USA Foreign Associate, the Pontifical Academy of Scientists of Vatican, the Chinese Academy of Sciences Foreign Fellow, and the Russian Academy of Sciences Foreign Fellow. Professor Ciechanover greatly cares about the scientific development in China. Currently, he is the Vice Chancellor of Guangdong Technion Israel Institute of Technology, China. And he is a visiting professor of Nanjing University, Tianjin University, Nankai University, and several top universities in China as well. He has established extensive collaborations with Chinese scientists and developed cutting-edge research reports in conferences held in China, which has greatly promoted the scientific development. Professor Ciechanover has remarkable contributions to the University of Macau too. He is currently an advisory chair professor, adjunct chair professor, and a member of the advisory board of the Faculty of Health Science. He was also the member of University of Macau International Advisory Committee from September 1st, 2015 to August 31st, 2016. He was also one of the Nobel laureate speakers at the Macau Symposium on Biomedical Sciences 2015, organized by FHS. Mr. Chancellor, it is my honor and privilege to present to you Professor Aaron Ciechanover for the award of Doctor of Science, honoris causa.
Thank you, President. Please be seated. 現在頒授榮譽博士學位予阿隆切哈諾沃教授，有請切哈諾沃教授到台前。We will now confer the honorary degree on Professor Aaron Ciechanover. We now invite Professor Ciechanover to proceed to the stage. 現在恭請譚司長在林主席及宋校長陪同下，頒發榮譽理學博士學位證書予阿隆切哈諾沃教授。May we invite Dr. Tan, accompanied by Dr. Lan and Rector Song, to present the certificate of degree of Doctor of Science honoris causa to Professor Aaron Ciechanover. 恭喜切哈諾沃教授。現在有請譚司長、林主席及宋校長致送紀念品予切哈諾沃教授。Congratulations to Professor Ciechanover. May we invite Dr. Tan, Dr. Lan, and Rector Song to present the souvenir to Professor Ciechanover. 多謝各位，請就座，校長請留步。Thank you. Please be seated. Rector, please remain on stage. 現在進入第6屆澳門生物醫學科學研討會開幕禮環節。The opening ceremony of the 6th Macau Symposium on Biomedical Sciences now begins. 有請澳門大學校長宋永華教授致歡迎辭。May we invite Rector Yonghua Song to deliver a welcome speech.
as the Honorable Secretary for Social Affairs and Culture of SAR, Dr. Alex Tan, the Honorable Chair of the University Council, Dr. Peter Nan, Honorable Speaker, Professor Aaron Ciechanover, distinguished guests, colleagues, students, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to the University of Macau. It is our great honor today to have your presence for the conferment of ceremony of Dr. honoris causa on Professor Ciechanover, Nobel laureate in chemistry in 2004. The University of Macau confers this honorary title on individuals who have accomplished a significantly high caliber of achievements that bring great contributions to mankind, to the community, and to the university. As a world-renowned biochemist, Professor Ciechanover's research works have brought magnificent contributions to the medical community and have also highly promoted the further development of medical treatment for improvement of the overall living standards of humankind. And for his groundbreaking discovery and successful research of ubiquity protease system, Professor Ciechanover was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry together with two other scientists in 2004. The system has become an important platform for drug development, laying the foundation for personalized medicine. In addition to the honor degree conferment ceremony, I would like to take this opportunity to extend our warmest welcome to all speakers of the 6th Macau Symposium on Biomedical Sciences, many of whom have traveled far to join us here today. This symposium provides a valuable chance for scholars and professionals to foster discussions and share scientific ideas, as well as to explore potential collaborations in the field of biomedical sciences. This year, we are honored to have Professor Ciechanover here at the University of Macau to conduct a Nobel laureate lecture entitled The Innovation of Personalized Medicine. Are we going to cure all diseases at what cost? As the open talk of the symposium. Through Professor Ciechanover's talk, our awardees will gain better understanding on how proteins control chemical phenomena in human body at a molecular level. Later this afternoon and tomorrow, more leading scientists are going to deliver a variety of interesting talks that are for sure highly inspiring. In closing, I wish the symposium a complete success with all of you having an enjoyable stay in Macau. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Honored Secretary for Social Affairs and Culture, Mr. Tan Junrong. Honored Chair of the University Council, Dr. Peter Nan. Honored Rector Song. Dear distinguished speakers, guests, colleagues, students, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 6th Macau Symposium on Biomedical Science. This symposium series was initiated in 2014 in the major purpose to increase interaction, collaborations between FH scientists and outside peers. This symposium series grows very quickly each year. From our second symposium, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth symposium today. In the first symposium, we only have 6 speakers, and the speaker number increased together with the audience. Until today, this symposium, we have 47 speakers, 120 plus posters, and over 350 participants. Because this symposium growth is completely, tightly coupled with the growth of our faculty. So I would like to take a liberty to introduce our faculty briefly here. Our faculty initiated 2013, formally opened to society in 2014. when we moved to this new campus in the middle of 2014. At that time, we only have 8 professors. And gradually, we increase our research forces. The most dramatic increase is our PhD students. And each year, we add about 40 plus graduate student, PhD student into our program. And up to today, we have 31 professors, including 1 professor who will join us in August. And with over 100 undergraduate students in biomedical major. And starting from this year, we also will add a major of bioinformatics. And we have currently about 200 PhD students, plus some students, 65 of them will join us in August, postdoctoral fellow and the research fellow together. We have about 380 working forces, which is a very strong working forces in Macau. And our major research area is disease-oriented. And we have cancer precision medicine, we have reproductive and aging biology, stem cell, diabetes, brain research, neurodegenerative disorders, immunology, and infectious diseases. And all those projects is centralized for big data and bioinformatics. In the past several years, we published over 800 scientific papers. And for this year's number has not completed coming out, but we project it will at least no less than the number we published last year. And also the quality of our publication keeps increasing each year. At the end of 2017, our faculty won Macau Innovation Award. About 1 year ago, our chemical medicine research entered the top 1% of Essential Science Index. We are quite a new faculty. We have a long way to go, but our goal is very clear. We want to become one of the top institutions in Asia, and from the long run, one of the top institutions in the world. Now, let's go back to this symposium. This is a 2-day program with 9 sessions, including 1 preliminary session, which will be held this afternoon right here, and 8 concurrent sessions, which will be held tomorrow in another building called N1, which is actually not far from here. We have 47 speakers with 2 keynote speakers. The first one is Dr. Ciechanover, who needs no more extra introduction. And another one is Dr. Hu Gao, who is the director of the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and also deputy director of Natural Science Foundation of China. And the theme of this symposium is innovation. The focus including, not limited to the precision oncology, drug discovery, cancer immunology, translational research, aging research, signaling networks, infectious disease and therapy, and other new technologies. All these events, our growth of faculty and the meeting series rely on the support of many, many people. Here I would like to take this opportunity to express my deepest thanks to the leadership. Sorry, I put this slides yesterday, but I really don't need to go through these slides because of you have in your program, and the preliminary session will be this afternoon. The other 8 concurrent sessions will be held tomorrow, and you can be selected because each time has 2 come up at the same time. And I would like to acknowledge people support us. First is the leadership of the who support our faculty, provide a fund for this symposium. And also for all speakers, host presenters, and the meeting participants for their come to sharing, to learn, and to teach. And also, importantly, for the supporting organizations. They provide some of the funds to cover part of this symposium, including actually our lunch and refreshment in a coffee break. Finally, I would like to thank you all for this symposium. I hope you will find this meeting enjoyable and you will have a wonderful stay in Macau. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. I would like first to thank the Senate of the University and mostly the professors of the Faculty of Health Sciences, and in particular my good colleague Professor Shuxia Deng, for making the decision of conferring upon me this wonderful, exciting accolade, and I'm humbled to receive it. Thank you very much. Before starting my talk, I have three short comments. One humoristic, the other two are a little bit more serious. The humoristic one is that it took me about 7 years to get my first doctorate in medicine, and then it took me another 6 years to get my second doctorate in sciences. And since then, it takes only one telephone call to get additional doctorates. So another honorary doctorate and another honorary doctorate. So the first two took 13 years, the others are very short to come. But I say it in a humoristic way, but I take it very seriously. The second comment, which is related to the first one, is of course the significance of this honor. What does it matter? You know, you get the Lasker Award, you get the Nobel Prize, you're a member of all kinds of academies. So what does another honorary doctorate mean to you? Does it mean anything? Is it important? Or can you just skip it? And I think that it's awfully and deeply meaningful. It's meaningful in the sense that universities, and a particular university, my home university, have been my home for the last 45 years. Now, if you look at universities historically, the first university was established in Bologna in Italy about 800 years ago. And it developed gradually, the whole idea of moving from private lessons from artists, the artisans that teach the art on one-on-one to big classes where initially knowledge is being transferred to the next generation, to educating professionals, have evolved along centuries in different countries. And universities have become probably the most important institution that people have ever made. Many politicians don't appreciate it so much as they should, but all the source of knowledge in our world, all the technologies that we are holding, let it be the high-tech, electronics, communication, airplanes, telephones, health, X-rays, imaging, drugs, have come from people that got their education in universities. I cannot imagine humanity without universities. And it's probably, as I said, the most important institution, without knowing, that humankind have ever made. And for me, it's a home where I made my discoveries, and most importantly, where I have the privilege of educating the next generation of scientists and engineers. And I think that there is something common to all universities. You know, you can be in Macau, in Hong Kong, in New York, in South America. It doesn't matter. Universities have the same principle. Transmitting and conveying knowledge and generating new knowledge. These are the two equivalent roles of what universities have to do. Education and research. Discovering new things and then transmitting knowledge to the next generation. And it's very important because the future of each and every country is absolutely and totally dependent on the next generation of engineering scientists. And therefore, this accolade is very important for me. First of all, it's being given to me by an institution that I'm very close to. I'm close to the University of Macau, but I'm more close even to the Institute of University in general. And so this is very important for me. Education of the next generation is important for me. And I think that I try to be humble. Serving as a role model to the young generation is also very important for me. And by saying serving as a role model, I don't mean that you should go and win the Nobel Prize. I never thought about the Nobel Prize when I started my career 45 years ago as a medical student, and then as a surgeon, and then as a scientist. Basically, I'm not a scientist by education, I'm a surgeon by education. By training, I never thought of any prize, I never thought of any accolade, I never thought. I was just driven by curiosity, and I'll talk about it in a minute. And I just did my own way. And the Nobel Prize came. It was important, but it didn't change my life tremendously. I'm still having a very active lab. We are still publishing. I'm still teaching. I'm fulfilling all my faculty duties. More difficult these days because I have to travel and I'm more busy, but I didn't give up on one single function as a regular faculty in the Faculty of Medicine in my institute. And serving as a role model means not getting the Nobel Prize, but leaving an impact behind you, doing something significant. My father always told me, which at the time I didn't understand it. He told me, Aaron, my son, my young son, I was, in a kindergarten and then elementary school, and I didn't really understand what he told me. It took me years later to understand. He said, you have no right to walk in the world for 80 years without leaving an impact behind you. If you do it, if you walk on the face of earth for 80 years, leaving nothing behind you, you wasted your life. You did waste your life. And I think that the idea is really to leave an impact. And it doesn't matter what. You can be architect, you can be artist, you can be dancers, you can be engineers, you can be teacher affecting the next generation. The idea is to do something impactful. Something new, something that didn't exist before you, something that contributes somehow to your very local society. In your case, it's here in Macau or in China or in Hong Kong, doesn't matter, and of course, something to the world. And therefore, I think that serving as a role model is something which is very important for me, and I think that this accolade, the honorary doctorate, reflects in some way my will to contribute in this way. The next, last comment before I start my talk is about science. And people are talking today about translational science and developing drugs and high-tech and developing devices and so on. It's very important to do it, but I think that there is a much more basic principle into science, and that's curiosity. You should be driven by curiosity. When we started our search about 40 years ago, when I was a graduate student with Aaron Hershko, it was the late 70s, we asked a simple biological question. How proteins are degraded in cells? How they are degraded in a specific way? How the cell can distinct and pick up a protein molecule that was mutated or misfolded and degrading it, destroying it, and leaving all the other healthy molecules intact. We didn't think of diseases, we didn't think of drugs, we didn't think of Nobel Prize, of course, we didn't think of anything. We were driven by one single engine, the engine of curiosity. And we discovered something new. When you discover something new at the beginning, you are very suspicious, and the scientific community is even more suspicious than you are. First of all, you think it's an artifact. Second, you think that it's not important. And it takes time to gather importance. It took almost 15 years for people to realize that what we discovered has some importance in biology. And all of a sudden, for the first 10 years, we were completely alone. So, when you are completely alone, you are walking alone in the forest, or you are swimming alone in the big ocean and there is nobody around you, you suspect that something is wrong, that you are going to drown, that you are going to lose your way. But nevertheless, you have to persevere, and you have to believe in yourself, and to believe that what you are doing is the right thing to do. Because if you are on the highway, accompanied by many cars, they tell you the way. The highway will take you wherever the highway takes you. And the signs will show you the way to Hong Kong, to Zhuhai, to Guangzhou, to Shenzhen from here, wherever. But if you are alone in the desert, or in the forest, or in the darkness, or in the ocean, and you have to find your way, on top of finding your way and using a very sophisticated GPS, you have to believe that you are going anywhere and that you are not going to lose your way. So the beginning was difficult, and it's difficult not only for us, for everybody that has this, but then all of a sudden something exciting started to happen, and that's that we started to gather people around us, and all of a sudden publications started to come out, and people discovered that the protein that they have been studying for years, very important proteins, oncogenes, P53 and NIC and JUN, protein that cause cancer, protein in the brain, are all destroyed by our system. And all of a sudden, the little drops of water that came hardly from the faucet became a creek, and the creek became a river, and the river became a Mississippi, and an Amazon. And now it's indeed an Amazon. And it's not only a scientific Amazon, but it's a medical Amazon. Because once something like that happens, then people ask if this system is so important, removing faulty proteins, then maybe something happens to the body if it's false, if it fails, if it doesn't function properly. And then people started to manipulate the system in mouse models and found diseases that are occurring when the system doesn't function properly. And then the pharma company walked in and say, aha, if there are diseases, maybe we can cure them, and maybe we can make drugs. And the first drug showed itself in the market in 2004, exactly the year that we got the Nobel Prize. And now it's a big industry, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And there are many drugs in the market, mostly for cancer, but new ones are coming for brain diseases, for Parkinson and Alzheimer, and other neurodegenerative diseases. And more than the dollar amount of the industry, that by the way, we see nothing out of it, because we didn't patent anything, regretfully for my university, not for me, I don't care. But the university was stupid enough not to believe in us. So besides the scientific community, even the university didn't believe in us. But now it's too late, it became public property, but it's okay. And what really makes me happy is to see millions of people benefiting and gaining their lives back. And let me end this part of my introductory words with some event that happened to me during the Nobel ceremony. So at one stage of my career, being a surgeon, I decided that maybe my mother wanted me to be a surgeon, but it's not exactly what I wanted to be. So I decided to switch and to go to science. I became again a graduate student in biology, where I discovered the ubiquitin system. And I left medicine with some hard feelings, because medicine, after all, is a very important profession. And I still love it very much, and surgery was very active, lots of adrenaline in the operating theater and so on, and I gained a lot of experience being a doctor, and I still enjoy it, because I understand disease mechanism, I understand patients, I have approach to disease, and I understand them better. So, the Nobel Prize came, and the Israeli ambassador in Stockholm gave us a big party. It was a Jewish holiday. The Nobel Prize is always awarded in December 10th, according to the will of Alfred Nobel. And at that time, December is always a beautiful month. Christmas is around, not the Chinese first of the year, the Christian one. Chinese is in February. So it's Christmas time, and the Jews are celebrating another holiday, so we had a big party. And all of a sudden, the ambassador tells us, I have a gift for you, for me and for my mentor, for Professor Hershko. And the gift was a walking human being. You know, when people tell you they have a gift for you, you think, okay, it's something that is wrapped in a box. No, it was a walking human being. And the walking human being we never met before. He was a Swedish citizen that walked in and told the story. And the story was that he was contracted, he had multiple myeloma. Multiple myeloma is a leukemia. It's one type of leukemia. And he was basically dying in Karolinska Institute Hospital. And as a last resort, the Swedish physician heard that there is a drug developed by an American company which is the first drug that was developed based on our system. It's an inhibitor of our system that is being targeting this disease. As I said, he was basically dying. The priest was called to his bed for the last confession, and the drug was flown as experimental compassionate drug to Stockholm, and he was given the drug, and within 2 weeks he was walking on his 2 legs completely disease-free. Not only that, but nowadays, 14 years later, he's still disease-free. He's alive. Now, the disease was a deadly disease. When I was a medical student, I remember well, patients died of the disease within a year or 2 into the diagnosis. I will not go into the disease, into the pathology of the disease, but it's a kind of blood cancer. And people were dying. Nowadays, of course, not all of them are lucky like he is, but many, many of them gain many good years of high quality of life, and many of them get their life back for good. So for me, it was a wonderful, not only exciting minute, but a lesson that on one hand I regretted leaving medicine or medical career, treating patients one-on-one, but on the other hand I learned that via science, and science that didn't have any intention, it's science that was driven by curiosity. At the end, it led also to treating and curing patients. So curiosity, if well driven, and well supported and well nurtured, at the end will lead to very good results, and it doesn't mean only in medicine, in technology, anywhere. You cannot decide one day waking up in the morning that you are going to cure cancer, because you don't know the mechanism of cancer. The basic principle in science that in order to develop something that is useful, you need to understand the basic mechanism, and only then you can target it. Otherwise, there is no way you can do it. Without understanding brain diseases, we shall not be able to cure brain diseases. So it's curiosity that drove us, not Nobel Prizes, not accolades, not drugs, not diseases. And then, it's not necessarily you that develop the drug. You know, we are living in a very broad world of communication, of internet, of publication. You do one step, somebody else will take the next step, somebody else will do the next step, and all together, we are building a wonderful building that is benefiting at the very end mankind. And I think that this is the beauty of science, that it has become an international language that we all share, and mostly an international language of peace that aims at bettering human life. So that's just for the short, long introduction. So let me take the rest of the time just to talk about the topic that I want to tell you, which is also related to medicine. I'm not going to tell you about the ubiquitin system that we discovered. It's a little bit, I wouldn't say too professional, but the audience is broad and I want to cater to a broad audience. So I'll tell you about something that I cherish very much and I'm very much involved in, and which pertains to each and every one of us. And that's the revolution of personalized medicine. And what you can see here, I'm not sure that there is a light, a laser light. No, there is no laser light, but it's okay. This is our city, the city of Haifa. It's a beautiful city sitting on the shore of the Mediterranean. And you can see the medical school in the hospital at the very upper left corner. You can see the white building. I'm sitting there, my laboratory is there, we teach there, and the next complex, the complex that is neighboring it, is a very comprehensive hospital of 1,200 beds, where we take care of patients. That's the average lifetime in the OECD, in the developed countries. If we go back 120 years ago, why 120? To the turn of the 20th century. People were living about 50 years, only. Which is amazing. People died of infection, farmers died in the field, I'm not talking about wars, women died during delivery, people had to have big families of 10 and more children because some of the children died. Families wanted to have males rather than females because males are stronger and they could work in the field, help the family, and the lifetime was about 50 years. So in one single century, we added to our lifetime about 30 to 35 years. Think about it, it's an amazing number. People don't think about it, but it is an amazing number. If you now go back 4,000 years ago, to old China that was close to the world, to Europe, Middle Ages, the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, the average lifetime at that time was about 30, 35 years. So it took 4,000 years to people to extend their lifetime by about 15 years, and then 100 years, 2.5% of the time, to extend it by double the amount, by 30 years. Something is wrong here. The curve was very flat for 4,000 years, and all of a sudden, it started to take off. Something magic happened in the 20th century. What is it? Science and technology. Simple. Vaccination, antibiotics, imaging, X-ray. X-ray came only in X-ray, by the way, was the first Nobel Prize in Physics, 1901, given to Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen. And then later on, CAT scan and MRI, anesthesia, surgery, clean water, diet, physical activity, all these technologies together piled up to extend our lifetime by 30 to 35 years. It's an amazing number. Now, there are two questions here. A good one and a less good one. The good one is, are we going to continue? Are we going to add another 30 years in the current century, in the 21st century, or maybe earlier? Or are we approaching a plateau? And the second question is, what is the price that we are paying for it? Is there a price, or it came for free? So are we going to continue? The answer is yes and no. Yes, we are already continuing, we are still climbing. Amazingly, the only country in which the lifespan is being shortened these days, going down, is big America. In the United States of America, lifespan is being shortened. Why? Because they are a little bit on the crazy side. They shoot one another, there is violence, they are drugging themselves, they are addicting themselves, and life expectancy in America is being shortened. How amazing it is. The most developed country in the world is losing lifespan. But in all other countries, it's increasing, not as much as beforehand, but slowly, few weeks every year. Underdeveloped countries, of course, less. Africa, Southeast Asia, less. Russia, amazingly, also very slow. Russia is doing very bad on health system, but we are not going to analyze it. But the developed countries, China included, of course, Europe, West Europe, Hong Kong, Macau, Japan, Korea, South Korea, of course, not North Korea, things are improving. Are we going to make it to 200? Probably not. People predict that the upper border, upper limit is going to be about 110, 115. There was a Nature paper a few years ago calculating the burden of mutations and so on and so forth. But gene editing is coming, so we should be able to correct mutations. So I think that we are plateauing. We are still climbing, but not at the same slope. Now, what is the price that we are paying? The price that we are paying is heavy. If you walk into a Macau hospital, Hong Kong hospital, Paris hospital, New York hospital, you will see the price. The three main killers of Western civilization are basically diseases that are due to, I don't say old because old is politically incorrect, but to advanced age. Heart diseases, malignancies, and brain diseases. You will not see the three diseases in young people. Yes, there is childhood cancer, but it's only 2% of the cases. You will not see heart attack in people of the age of 20 and 30, and certainly you will not see Alzheimer or Parkinson at this age. So probably the biological machine is exhausting itself. It cannot sustain itself for that long. It's amazing that it can sustain itself for that long anyway. And we are paying a price by degenerating ourselves. And the three main killers are age-related. And accordingly, the biomedical community, you look here at the Faculty of Health Sciences, any biomedical faculty in the world, mostly is concentrating on those problems. directly or indirectly. Either it's cancer or heart diseases or brain diseases, or issues that are related to it. Regulation of transcription, anything that is related to these problems. So of course the human society is trying to combat it, but whether how successful we are going to be partially successful, no doubt. Whether we are going to stop these diseases, I'm a little bit doubtful. We are going to contain them, but probably not to stop. So this is about AIDS. Now, where medicine is going? So medicine is going in several directions. One direction, of course, is artificial organs. We can replace today valves in the heart. We can replace joints in the hip, in the hand, in the arm. We can do some artificial organs, but some organs are still very difficult to replace. We cannot replace heart, though the heart is a pump, so it's a mechanical organ. It's not the brain. But we still cannot replace the heart. You know, as many efforts has been invested in replacing the heart, they all fail. We cannot make an artificial heart because of many reasons. Of course, we cannot replace the brain. We cannot replace everything that is related to the brain's eyes, and so on and so forth. We can replace kidneys partially by artificial kidney. Mostly we are relying on transplantation. We cannot make it artificial. We can replace the heart by taking a heart from a dead patient, or a kidney from a live patient, or a lobe of a liver from a live patient, but we cannot make it, we cannot synthesize it, we cannot make it artificial. So artificial organ is one direction. Stem cell biology, reprogramming is another direction. It's still very immature, it's still very embryonic. In China there is a lot of cell therapy clinics, but the world doubts whether it's all faked, and probably most of it is fake, but we should not talk about it. There are very limited success so far with stem cell. We hope that it will come. The Japanese did one controlled experiment on blindness, on AMD. It's called age-related macular degeneration. It was partially successful, but we are not there yet, but this is another direction. And the third direction is, of course, drugs. We are developing drugs. And we have developed drugs traditionally for many years, but mostly in the 20th century, when communication started, when clinical trials started. So the drug industry really started to develop in the 20th century. Initially, it was incidental. So for example, aspirin, which is a very commonly used drug, was developed completely incidentally. It's still a very commonly used drug. It's being used as anti-inflammatory drug, as anti-cancer drug, as anticoagulant drug. Probably it's the drug that has been used in the pharma industry more than any other drug in the world. Now there is no patent, of course, so it's very cheap. And it was developed by complete coincidence. Actually, the old Egyptians, 4,000 years ago, knew already about aspirin. When they chewed the willow bark leaves that grew on the banks of the Nile River, they noted that it has a pain-alleviating characteristic. And then it took all the way to the beginning of the 20th century by a company called Bayer in Germany to develop aspirin, the purified drug out of it. It's a very simple chemical. You can see it at the very top. Here, it's acetyl salicylic acid. It's very simple and complete coincidence. Nowadays, to develop a drug costs several $1 billion. To bring a drug to the market now costs several $1 billion. This drug that is still very commonly used was nothing. Nothing was invested. Another very interesting drug that was developed by coincidence is, of course, the first antibiotic, penicillin. Penicillin was discovered by coincidence by Sir Alexander Fleming, who got the Nobel Prize for it, so now we are more advancing. And he was a microbiologist, and some of you will recognize the Petri dish, that microbiome that people growing bacteria on. You can see the white smear here. of the bacteria, and by mistake he left a bacterial dish with a nutritious agar medium on it open on the table, and he left for a few days. When he came back, after a few days he found this white spot on it, and the white spot was a spore of a fungus that fell from the air. The air is full with spores of fungi that fell on the dish and grew on the nutritious media. But what he noted also, that there is a halo here. You see this halo here around the colony that the bacteria cannot reach. They cannot grow into. They don't reach the border of the fungal colony. And he surmised that the fungus is secreting a material that he called antibiotic, anti against bios, life. And the rest of the story is history. Two other scientists, Ernst James and Howard Florey, purified penicillin from this fungus, and then Selman Waxman purified streptomycin from another fungus, and the world has changed forever. Complete serendipity, no development. People didn't even realize that fungi has antibiotics. So this was the era of serendipity. Let's move quickly to the next modern era, 60s and on, and that's high throughput screening. High throughput screening means that you have a model for a disease, like cells that are growing in tissue culture, like cancer cells, and then you have a library of chemicals, millions of chemicals, all incidental, and you take them one by one and try to see whether one of them will inhibit the cell growth. Now, you don't have any mechanism in mind. It's all trial and error. You just screen millions of molecules to find one. Why do you think you are going to find one? Because probably one of these chemicals will fit into the structure of the driver of the pathological process, let it be cancer, let it be cholesterol secretion, let it be anything, and will modulate it, will inhibit it. And indeed, many drugs have been developed and still are developed based on screening, and one of them is statins. Statins are inhibitors of cholesterol biosynthesis, and as you know, cholesterol is harmful. It accumulates in the arteries, in the blood vessels that bring blood to the heart, the coronary vessels, and they block it. You see here the fat that is accumulating, and then at the end blocks it. And statins are blocking the synthesis of cholesterol, and they have become an unbelievable successful drug, being used by millions and millions and millions of people worldwide, and saved the lives, preventing heart attack to millions of people. The sales are also multi-billion dollars a year, and it's a big success this year. So this is a more scientific approach. Instead of relying on serendipity like penicillin and aspirin, there is a screening. Now the question is, why can't we screen and screen and screen and screen until we find drugs to all diseases? The issue is that we are all human beings. And the models that we are using are not the right models. We are using culture cells, and we are using animals, but animals are not human beings. Think about it, that there are not two human beings that walk on the face of Earth that are identical to one another. We are all different from one another. Even identical twins are different epigenetically from one another. So there are not two people on the face of Earth that are identical to one another, not two people. So therefore, no wonder that diseases are behaving differently in each of us. In one person, the disease will be more aggressive, in another one, it will be less aggressive. And in one person, the disease will be due to one mutation, breast cancer, and in another woman, the breast cancer will be due to another mutation, and so on and so forth. So diseases are variable. They are not similar. We thought naively that they are similar. And therefore, the models that we are using are the wrong models. And therefore, we needed to have another method of drug development, and that's the revolution of personalized medicine. And it's all based on the issue of primacy, I think, is a very important one. There is one issue because I was a little bit exhausted because of the heat here. And I want to compliment. I'll give you a permission in a minute. Think about a case where me, in this afternoon, I feel bad, and I go to a local hospital in Macau. Feeling bad, like now, well, now I'm improving, no doubt I get better, especially by sitting. You are going to the hospital with a chest pain. You are complaining that you have a chest pain. Now, as a young physician, a chest pain for me was the possibility of heart attack. So what we did in the old days, we took an ECG, we did ECG, and then we took several enzymes that are secreted by the heart, and either we ruled in my heart attack, so the patient was sent to the intensive care unit, or we ruled it out, and the patient was happy to hear it and he went home, or we had a doubt, and then we left the patient for surveillance in the hospital for whatever time, like 24 hours. Now can you imagine that on top of all these examinations, they take my sequencing and they do sequence my DNA. And the doctor is coming back to me and he tells me, Aaron, you know, I have good news and bad news for you. The good news is you don't have a heart attack. But the bad news is that we found a gene that has a mutation that carries high susceptibility to Alzheimer's disease. And if this is true, and it's real, it's not that I'm just telling you an imaginary story. There is a gene that is called APO4BA. It's a lipoprotein-carrying gene, doesn't matter what it does, that if mutated, carries a susceptibility to Alzheimer's. Now I'm lying in the emergency room in the hospital of Macau, and I get the news that I'm healthy, don't have heart attack, I can go home, with the knowledge that I may become, probably, an Alzheimer patient. Now the question is, what do I do with the information? What do I do with it? Now let me analyze it for you in detail. First of all, I tell my wife. Now, I trust my wife, I've been married for 45 years, that she will remain loyal to me. It's an assumption, it's not certain. But let's assume it. That she will remain loyal to me, and even when bad times will come, and I will not recognize her anymore, she will still take good care of me. That's the easiest, my wife. Now, what do I tell my employer? Do I go to my employer and tell him that in a few years, my president of my university, he is going to have a professor that cannot even make 2 and 2, that doesn't know the way to the university, that cannot teach, that cannot educate graduate students, that cannot do anything. He may fire me. Well, I'm working in a public university, so I believe that out of mercy, he will keep me. But then comes another question. What do I tell my health insurance? Every year, remember, I pay health insurance to renew my policy. For 50 years, I didn't use it. I didn't take a penny from the insurance company. I paid and paid and paid and paid. Now, when I come to them and tell them that in a few years I'm going to have Alzheimer's disease, they're going to cancel my policy. So at the time that I need them, I will not have them. Why should they take care of an Alzheimer's patient that costs them tons of dollars every month to get hospitalized? Why should they do it? And then comes the question, which is even more severe. What do I tell my children? I did my life already, it's okay, but the children are young. They are not married yet, or they are married and don't have a family yet. They are studying in the university, their life is ahead of them. What do you tell them? So let me just sum up. I'm sorry that I couldn't do it by standing, but let me sum up this very important point about privacy, which is really a heavy price that we are going to pay for this revolution of personalized medicine. One of the P's that I showed you, remember I showed you personalized or precise, I show you predictive, I can predict disease, I show you preventive. From time to time I can prevent the disease. In the case of Alzheimer's, there is no way I can prevent it. And I showed you participatory. The patient has to take part in the decision-making process of his or her own fate. For Angelina Jolie to take the breast away, she has to decide. There is no doctor in the world that can tell a woman to take the breast off. No way in the world. The patient in the future medicine, in personalized medicine, will have to understand what's going on and to make his or her own decisions. It's not going to be the doctor anymore to tell you what to do. The doctor can advise you, can tell you the statistics, but the doctor cannot make the decision. But the key point here is the prediction. Think about this. You're sitting here in a beautiful auditorium, and, well, this area is safe from earthquakes. But you know, in a minute, if there will be an earthquake, if you're in the middle of China, in Chengdu, in Hsinchu province, there can be an earthquake. And in an earthquake, the ceiling can fall on your head and you're all going to die. But nevertheless, you're sitting here calmly. Why? Because the statistics is very low. Every day, we are going to our car to drive it, and there is a chance that we'll be involved in an accident and get wounded or killed. Nevertheless, we go to the car. Tomorrow night, I'm going to go to Hong Kong airport to take a flight back to my home. The airplane can crash, and airplanes do crash. Nevertheless, I do it. Why? Because the statistics is low, but mostly because I don't know the future. Our psyche, our structural psychological structure is built so that we don't know the future and therefore we are protected. Think about people that know that they are going to die. Think about people in the prison that know that they are going to be hanged or to be shot. What do they feel about the life coming to an end? We are protected by the lack of knowledge of the future. But predictive medicine is going to turn this over. Doctors will be able to tell us with high probability how we are going to look like. Whether I'm going to have Alzheimer's, whether I'm going to have cancer, whether I'm going to have heart attack. And this is something we are not still used to. So the future is the key. And the future has to do not only with my wife, not only with my children, not only with my employer, not only with my health insurance. It's going to have something to do with me, with you. How I'm going to relate to myself, knowing what's going to happen to me. And I think that this is something that we still, as human beings, have not been grasping. We still don't have the tools to deal with it. And I think that in that respect, precision medicine is a completely different tool than medicine has been thus far. Until now, we have a drug to cancer, we have a better MRI, we have a better CAT scan, we have a better this and a better that and a better ambulance and a better this. But nothing had to do with prediction. I think that the real turning point in precision medicine is the ability and the power of prediction. And therefore, and of course the information, the leakage and so on and so forth. So I think that the issue, the bioethical issue that is attached to this revolution is truly critical. And don't expect scientists or physicians to solve it for you. I mean, for you, I mean the society. Scientists and physicians can only advise. They are not society. Society is all of us. Workers, farmers, clerics, government officials. And society will have to decide according to its history and background and culture and language and beliefs and religion, how it's going to handle it. It will need politicians and clergymen and sociologists. Everybody will have to discuss this issue and to decide what extent they want to take out of it and what extent they don't want to take out of it, because it shakes the very structure the very fundamental structure of society. Think about our ability to predict, to sequence your DNA and to talk to you about your intelligence. Think about the fact that the Americans or somebody is going to say that one ethnic group is less intelligent than the other. This is going to shake the society in a very strong way. And for the first time, I think, science is standing in a point where we have to decide what should not be studied. You know, until now we thought that science is a free, open enterprise. Go by your curiosity, do whatever you like, edit babies. Look at the guy from Shenzhen, Yankee Head, who edited 2 babies, and now the consequences are going to be seen. Maybe they will have short half-life time. Maybe they will have some other complications. We as a society will have to put some limits on our technological ability. We shall not be able anymore to walk freely on the pathway of science. We shall have to take into consideration morality. We should have to take into consideration the delicate structure of the society, its history, its beliefs, its tradition, its music, its language, its food, everything. And a scientist will be able to consult society. So think that the revolution of personalized medicine is not pertaining only to health. It's pertaining to science at large. And I think that the baby editing experience in Shenzhen, 30 kilometers away from here, is probably the first lesson that we are learning about the limitation that we should put on ourselves as scientists and physicians. So sorry for the short incident. I wanted nevertheless to complete my talk with highlighting these bioethical issues. So now if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Professor Ciechanover. May we invite Professor Glaser, Vice Rector of University of Macau, to be the moderator of the Q&A session.
Okay, so before I get started to invite questions from the audience, I just would like to share with you something special today. I probably, not many people realize, I wear a very special tie today. This tie, this morning I walked into the VIP room. Aaron was the only person who immediately recognized this tie. Because a few years ago, in 2014, I had a chance to visit Israel with some other colleagues, including Professor Dunn, and we were very fortunate to have a chance to visit his lab. And at that time, we were very impressed by his energy and passion for science, and he gave us a special lecture in his very special meeting room. And during his lecture, he actually criticized China a lot, very harshly, okay? But in a very friendly and constructive manner, okay? And because of his long-time friendship with China and Chinese people, I think he has been visiting China, traveling China a lot in recent years. Now, he's been employed in China, and as the Professor just mentioned, that he's currently the president of the Guangdong Technion University. And this tie, I forgot to mention this tie again. This tie was a gift, special gift, given by Technion University when we visited that place. And the pictures, patterns on the tie are what? Are the molecules of ubiquitin, okay? And the molecules of ubiquitin. And if you want to see what ubiquitin looks like, you can come to see me, okay? And I'll show you, this is the ubiquitin on a tie, all right? And this morning, Aaron just told me, I didn't know that. He actually was the one who designed this tie, okay? So very special. That's why you can recognize the tie immediately when I walk into the room, all right? So thank you. So now, any questions from audience? Yeah, okay, we'll go here.
Hi, Aaron. It's really a great honor to see you here again. Also, I was honored to be a postdoc in Israel many years ago. So, last year, I was invited by my former supervisor to visit Israel. So every time when I go there, there's a big, very shocking sign in the airport, which is a picture of more than 15 Nobel Prize laureates in the airport. So it gives you a very strong emotion that this is a country put so much effort in education from childhood. Yeah, so I heard from my supervisor that Israeli families put a lot of focus or weight on their child education. So could you tell us a little bit more how Israeli children are raised for that direction to grow with high education? Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question about the success of Israel. First of all, about what you told me, that in the airport there are photos of all the achievements, including the Nobel laureates. So everybody tells me, "Hey, Aaron, I saw you in the airport." I said, "What? I don't remember." No, he said, "Photo." So, yeah, I think that we are less successful than people think we are. So let's put it in the proportion. Let's be humble about it. But we are doing well, partially because of our neighbors. We don't have such nice neighbors, as you all know. And our neighbors would like to eat us for breakfast every morning. But we don't like to become food for breakfast. So we need to keep ahead of our neighbors. And in order to keep ahead of our neighbors, we need technology. And again, it's the universities. I must emphasize the role of the universities. I'm coming from a technological university that is not MIT, but it's like MIT. It's engineering and sciences. We don't have law, we don't have liberal arts. It's only engineering and sciences. It's a very good school, the Technion. We have 3 Nobel laureates, many members of the National Academy of Sciences of the United States. And we need to keep ahead of our neighbors, because if not, we are really lost. We shall not be there. We simply will not be there. So this is one reason. We are driven by technology, and we are actually became #1 in the world in many technologies. We are teaching the Americans. Drones. We are #1 in the world in drones. We have our own satellites. We are a little country. We are 8 million people, bigger than Macau, but not much bigger than Hong Kong. 8 million people, that's all. And we are #1 in the world in cyber technology now, cyber security, because we have to protect our systems, not only the military systems, water, trains, transportation, everything. All the world is coming to us to study, and where these experts are coming from? From the university, from our Department of Computer Sciences and Mechanical Engineering, all the robots and so on and so forth. So this is one issue, and I think that it's a very important one. We push and we develop the universities according to need. The government is pumping money into the universities, and especially to required areas like AI. We are now becoming the world leaders in AI. Why? Because we need it. The government is giving our university tons of money to develop further computer sciences, AI, anything, aeronautical engineering, satellite, space, everything. So this is one thing. Need. You need to live. You need to survive. The other thing I think is tradition. I think that Jews, very much like the Chinese, by the way, I think that we share with the Chinese a lot of values. Israel has very good relations with China, with mainland China. Because of that, I think that the Chinese have always been studying, pushing knowledge, and so on. I think the Jews, Israel is a young country. They are only 71 years old. Actually, I was born the year that the country was born, 47. Jews were always persecuted. I don't even want to mention the Holocaust in Europe in 39 to 45. So the only thing that they were able to take with them when they were persecuted is knowledge. They were not allowed to have land, own property, nothing. So they became merchants, physicians, lawyers, bankers, something that you can always carry. If somebody tells you, if somebody will kick me out of my country tomorrow, I can always practice medicine and I can always practice science. So I carry my property with me. I'm not bound to anything. Of course, I have a lab, but that's minimal. So Jews developed the art of scholarliness. And I remember myself at home, my father, I grew up in a very poor home. My father, the first thing that he did, teaching me read and write. I remember at the age of 3, when I came from the kindergarten, I was sitting with my father and learning how to write and to read. When I came at 6 years, when I was 6 years old and I came to elementary school, I was the head of the whole class. Not because I was genius, not because of anything. I just was learning it at home, how to read and how to write. So I think that it's a mixture of culture and of need, all together, that make Israel such a successful story.
Thank you very much.
Medicine. My question is not really related to how we will make the 4P medicine true. Because what I really want to ask is trying to follow up, reinforce the question, because he asked for how Israel educated their kids. And I would like to see, because in our faculty we have many PhD students. If possible, I would like you to share some of your experience, how to do well in a graduate study period of time.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think that our teaching system and educational system, it again reminds me of an old story. There is a story about a Jewish mother in New York. It's not a story. I mean, people say it's a real one, but there is no way to confirm it. Of a Nobel laureate in physics, of Isidore Rabin from Columbia University. And when Isidore was a child, it's a very famous story. When Isidore was a child and he came home from the kindergarten, his mother asked him, not what did you learn in the kindergarten today, but what questions did you ask? Now think about the difference between learning and questioning. Questioning means that you heard your kindergarten teacher talk to you, but you had a doubt. You didn't understand something. You analyzed yourself what she said, and you came to the conclusion that either she was wrong or you didn't understand something, so it requires analysis to ask the question. If you are just learning something, it means you are absorbing it without asking a question. But if you ask a question, it means you are challenging authority. Maybe she was wrong, maybe she did a mistake, maybe she was not clear enough. So asking a question is much more complicated process than absorbing knowledge. So I think that this little story is also the story of our education system. And especially these days, you don't need to teach material. You don't need to teach the Krebs cycle. You don't need to teach replication of DNA. It's all in the textbooks, it's all in Wikipedia, it's all in the internet. You can go to your library via the internet, you don't have to go to the library. You can do everything. The issue is to challenge people with problem-solving approach. And the same is my military training. I'm an officer in the Israeli military. I remember that, they don't train us. They throw us in the night. One example, a group of 3 of us. And they tell us, by the morning, you are back to base. How? Find your way. Moon, stars, noises, direction of the wind, however. It's the idea of solving problems and also improvising on the spot. Because the challenge of the night is a surprise one. You never know what they are going to tell you in the night. To cross the river without ropes, to do something. So you never know what the question, but you have to improvise on the spot. So what we do in the Technion, and I remember even in high school, well, when I studied in high school, it was still not the internet time, so it was kind of mixed. It's a question-solving atmosphere. You challenge them non-stop. I think that this is the issue, and for that you have to turn your teaching system upside down, completely upside down. And to think that the material is in the book, because if you are just teaching what is in the book, then how can they evolve into asking, or how do they know what's new? When they come then to the lab, how do they know what type of a question to ask? And I think that we are very unique about it. We have an excellent education system. Excellent education system that is always, in the university, it's all about projects. We don't teach anymore. It's all about projects that the students have to do by themselves, in groups, whatever. You know, the Israeli students, you know, they develop their own satellites. I mean, I'm talking now not solving the little problem. The students in the Faculty of Aeronautics Israel we just sent a satellite, you know, we became the 4th country, we failed in the very last stage. It's only the United States, the UK or France and China that have landed a satellite on the moon. China did it on the dark side of the moon. Israel is number 4. Think about it, we are 8 million people. We failed in the last stage because it crashed. We are going now to the second one. In a few months we are going to send the second satellite to the moon. You know who did it? Students. Students in the Department of Aeronautical Engineering. Along with them, they need money, of course, with some entrepreneurs and philanthropy and so on. But we give the students real challenges, I mean, not easy ones. You know, the final project is taking a year. The last year is completely devoted to a project. Huge one. It needs 20 students to do it. So it's a very different atmosphere. But again, Shushia, there is no secret here. We don't hide anything. I mean, we don't have any, there is nothing sitting in my pocket. I mean, it's a culture. It's really, it's a type of an ecosystem for education, a different ecosystem.
Okay, probably. So question is very important, all right? So
maybe the students have some questions.
Yeah, student. Also, maybe we can ask a question from student, if any, because I think most of the audience here actually are students. Yes, there's one here.
Hi, Professor. Thank you for sharing your personal experience. My question actually is related to your years as a student as well, especially in the 13 years in your first 2 PhD degrees.
The difficult doctorate, not the easy ones.
Yes, the more difficult ones.
Yeah, right.
So, I think the curiosity, you bring it up a few times, that this is what drives you or motivates you to continue to looking for new things and solutions. And also problem-based learning also is a new skill or better skill of learning and solving. So I guess you get asked many times, what did you do right to achieve XYZ achievement in science and technologies? My question actually is, if there's one thing you would say that you didn't do to make you to be here today? So that's my question.
It's a great and a very difficult question. Both. You know, basically we can turn it upside down a little bit and say, what is the secret of success in science in many ways? And I think that it's a mix between you and your environment. Now, you is you. I mean, it's what you get at home, from your parents, from your teachers, what your mother inherited you in your genes, I assume. You need also a good mother and a good father, the mix between the two, the genetics. But I think that the outside environment is very important. I talked already about, you know, challenging authority, which is very important because in the East, in East Asia in general, people don't challenge authority. They are, you know, the Buddhism, you know, Macau is less so, and China is not religious, but the Buddhism is kind of an accepting religion. You know, it's like, okay, you know, you go to Thailand, you go to other countries, you go to Korea, Korea is half Christian. People don't challenge the parents, people don't challenge the teacher is like the God, the parents are like, You know, you should respect your teachers and you should respect your parents, but you can mildly approach them and say, hey guy, let's discuss it. You are not the ultimate knowledge. I read this and I read this and I heard this and I heard this. So challenging authority is very important. Now, let me go, so this has to do with the environment. You should respect authority, but challenging it at the same time. And you know, when I lecture in Singapore, I go a lot to Singapore. It's amazing. You know, you sit in the class, you go to the class, and the children are sitting like sculptures. They think that you are God. They win Nobel Prize. Wow! They sit like frozen. And I tell them, if you are not going to start to ask questions, I'm leaving the class. I'm not staying here. Get up, guys. Warm up. Wake up. They think that, you know, that I'm an ET, fell from heaven. So, challenging authority. But then there is another secret. And it's not a secret. Good mentorship. If you look at Nobel Prizes, I just bring Nobel Prizes not because this is the way to go. You will see that a Nobel Prize, get a Nobel Prize, get a Nobel Prize, get a Nobel Prize. Why? Again, it's the spirit. And you know, the mentors don't call Stockholm to say, hey, I have a good student, give him a Nobel Prize. It doesn't work like that. Not in the Nobel Prize level. But if you are educated in a good environment, I'm not saying Nobel Prize, the atmosphere, the freedom, the exchange of knowledge is critical. So I didn't tell you about my biography, but I don't want to go into details. But I have excellent mentors, and I chose them. I didn't take them for granted. When I did choose Abraham Hershko, with whom I won the Nobel Prize at the end, I went to several mentors for the PhD. And he is the only one that challenged me. Because all the others told me, oh, I work on this and this protein and do this and this and this. And I said, wow, they know everything. How can it be? And he was a young scientist. Actually, he was a non-tenure assistant professor. He just came from a postdoc. And he told me, oh, you know, I have some thinking about some system, about proteolysis, but I'm not sure. It's going to be risky. Maybe we'll get nowhere. Probably we'll get nowhere. And then I was challenged. I said, wow, here is something. If something goes wrong, I can always go back to operate, because I'm a physician. Let's take the challenge. And then, after finishing, he offered me a position. He said, oh, you know, you discovered a big system. I give you a professorship in my department. I said, I don't need it. I don't want it. I want to go to a postdoc. And I went to a postdoc to the best institute in the world. Maybe, I don't know what is best. I went to MIT. And it was like a dream being at MIT. Because MIT is second to none. You can cut the excellence in the air like a cake. Excellence everywhere, in every corner. Collaborations, freedom, the best people. We were 25 postdocs in the lab. 2 of them got Nobel Prize, and 5 of them became members of the National Academy from one lab. One lab. Can you imagine what an atmosphere it was? So challenge yourself. Don't stay in Macau. Okay, do your PhD, but go the next. Go to the best people, and then come back to Macau to build your country. When I left MIT, I had offers all over the United States, but I said, no, I want to go back to my country, because in my country I'll have a much bigger impact than in America. America has many of me, but the education, the basics, I got in America, in the best place. So I think that environment and mentorship are critically important. And you should be proactive about choosing them. Don't wait for luck. Don't go to somebody that pays you fellowship. Don't knock on the door and say, do you have a space for me? Go and search for it proactively. And there are excellent places in the world. In Asia too. In Asia too. Tokyo University. I mean, I can enumerate to you all those. Typically in the West, I grew up in the West, so America is very attractive to me, but England, the same, Switzerland, Germany, excellent places, mentorship, institutions, challenging authority. I think that all this push you above the borders of innovation and independence.
Okay, all right, so because of time, we have to end our lecture now. Next time, Professor Aaron Strauer for the wonderful inspiring lecture.